And that's actually a good segue to the other side of this, Ben. Very serendipitously, of course, last week. So you get a ceasefire one day. The next day, it might have been the very next day, we have to check the facts on this. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, announced that Qatar will build a facility at the Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho. And the purpose of this, not an air base, not building a military base on American soil. They are building a facility inside an American air base. That's unusual, right? And the idea is to allow Qatari pilots to train alongside U.S. soldiers. The Singaporean Air Force also has a presence at this base. This is the second big piece of news from Qatar in the last 2 months. Ben, last month we had an agreement in which the U.S. assured the security of the state of Qatar with something that looks like a NATO article. The United States shall regard any armed attack on the territory, sovereignty, or critical infrastructure of the state of Qatar as a threat to the peace and security of the United States. We are getting real close to these guys. What's going on with Qatar here, Ben?
Yeah, I think this reminds me of, luckily I have the book right here, of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Not saying that this is the same piece exactly. Obviously, there's differences between now and the Cuban Missile Crisis. But which is everything is connected. There are deals across the board, and they're not always one for one in a perceived way by the end consumer, us, right? So Cuban Missile Crisis, there was a large negotiation. Soviet Union agreed to take the missiles out of Cuba, but then 6 months later, the U.S. removed important missiles out of Turkey. Now, didn't seem connected. At the time, you probably didn't notice, but actually it was the deal made for the Cuban Missile Crisis. But they had to get the press coverage, had to get the plausible deniability. Kennedy was smart about negotiating that. And so I think a lot of the things we see, it's not just one thing, right? It's not just, this is a deal for this. There's a larger, whether it's what we just talked about in the hostage negotiations or the end of the ceasefire, whether it's all these other deals. I think these are all pieces of a larger puzzle, and it's hard. And I don't know if we even have the ability to distinguish between what is one piece of that larger deal. So there's probably just always more context is what I would say.
I think it's fair to say, to make it explicit, the fact that Qatar decided to put the kind of pressure to get this ceasefire agreement they did may suggest that perhaps there was something in it for them in return. I'm sure there will be a book written someday. Maybe it'll be called 17 Days. Maybe it'll be called 2 years and 7 days. I don't know, man. But stay tuned. The point is, I think you got to look at these things in context. These things do not happen in a vacuum. The U.S. did not just sell out our country to a foreign entity. All right. Let's close that one out. Speaking of things that are changing here in the U.S., back on American soil. What do you got for us, Ben?